welcome everybody to the afternoon sessions. Hope you had a great lunch and that you will be with us the whole afternoon to check this wonderful talks that people from the community want to share with you. So to start off, we're going to start with Ginger Seng. And she's going to talk to us about the importance of developer community for brand loyalty and user adaptation. So welcome to the stage, Ginger.
Hi everyone, really glad to be here today. And I was originally actually gonna set up some like a live demo of like what Hackster.io is and everything. But scoring the resolution is a bit too low for the for that live demo. It's a website that hosts, over 2 million developers from around the world. If you do have your laptop with you, please go check out Hackster.io. If you were how many of you actually have used Hackster before? Or like none of you have used it or know anything Hackster? Okay, great. So I actually just start working for Hackster like earlier this year, just since January. I would love to share with you kind of like my story, why I'm standing here today, why I'm even here to start with. And then what I'd love to do, with the after that is that kind of a chat with you and make this more of like an interactive session. I don't want, just talk to you and talk at you, with like kind of projects I've done. I'm really here, this is my first Fab Fest. I'd really love to come here and more learn from you in the global innovation system, in the Fab network. If you haven't got the chance, to present or speak on the stage yet, I'd love to invite here, actually curate a panel, ask live if you want a chance, to get on the stage and talk and chat with me. And it's my first time doing this kind of like live curated panel. I used to always, prepare like a panel of people that I talk with an agenda. But, I think it will be just fun that we do this like really organic this way with this audience. So really quickly, my background, I actually I originally was born and raised in China and then grew up, went to United States for college. And of course, from like the Chinese culture, we really strive for, going for engineering and science. So, I went to school for mechanical engineering. A couple of things that's really, I think, make and Fab related that really changed my life, I'd like to share with everyone here, is that when I was going to, of course, in the United States education system, when you go through like a engineering program, a lot of it's, like really theories and stuff. But I got really lucky and got participated in this thing called solar decathlon. Has anybody here ever heard of solar decathlon before? Solar decathlon? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know, Solar Decathlon is a biannual event that's hosted by U.S. Department of Energy that challenges 20 schools from around the world, 20 teams from around the world in building a net zero solar house. So a net zero solar house that's fully sustainable, and then you have to design it from ground up, and you have to build it, and you have to take it to competition. So the whole program lasts about 2 years, and I got engaged with it during kind of like my senior year when I was in college. I was a mechanical engineering major at the time, and working in the solar research lab. So it was like really, really obvious, like for me to become like the project engineer. And so, and I would say the reason why that project really changed my life is that prior to that, it was all my engineering education was all just theory, was all just, you pass this ME 320 class, and then you advance, and then the traditional career path is that you end up being, go design HVAC. At that time, I was going to school in Las Vegas. You like the best job you could get is like become an HVAC designer in a casino. But when we did the house, when we start actually, when I got involved with a project, I end up have to work with architects. And I've had to work with architects. And how solar decathlon works is that you get, it's called decathlon because there's 10 category. So you get judged on your architectural, your engineering, technology. And then, of course, you have to fabricate and make the house. And that was, in Las Vegas, during that year. And then we end up have to take the house. You have to design it in a really modular way also. So you can actually take the house to competition. And then once you get, so we spent about like a year and a half in building our house and make it a really theme, towards our local community, which is Las Vegas desert, and call it Desert Soul. A lot of like things, evolved from there. And then we end up taking to California that year in 2013 for competition. And really also the house was set up so all the home automation system and everything is data logged, so you can see the whole performance of the house. And so so after that, we competed in the competition and won second place in the world. And after that, lots of people come to us and say, oh, you have this amazing solar house that you guys made a prototype of. And how will you make more of these? At that time, I actually didn't really have an answer for it. And I thought, okay, we made one net zero solar house. That was already very hard. Had no idea really even how to do, make more of those. I was an engineer. So I actually end up at that time, instead of working on that more, I took another route in terms of become a entrepreneur. I was like, okay, I actually really want to commercialize this technology, but how do even all the funding? And this morning there was somebody asked about how can makers be better good at money. At that time, that was my goal in understanding, how do you actually commercialize technology? All these amazing things that we generate as ideas, but eventually how does it get into the market? So I end up did a robotics startup. I ended up becoming a hardware entrepreneur and did a robotics startup with another buddy of mine from college that was making drones. So that took me on a different spin route in terms of entrepreneurship. I had to learn everything robotics from ground up because although I was a mechanical engineer, robotics was actually not my trade, and I was doing solar and renewable energy. And we again, we were pretty lucky back then. Robotics was really hot in 2015. A lot of like investors were investing in it. So we end up doing a startup. We collaborated with a business team, the business school. From our school, we were in engineering school and collaborated with our engineering school, a business school, and then came up with our first business plan in using drones to do nuclear waste detection, and did like win a business plan competition, and was again very hot at the time because it was our school's first engineer came out of a startup, a tech startup that was that's going to raise money and become like these in drones to do many different applications, things like that. And so the talk today was about like developer community and how that even all spin off into a developer like a community things. Is that the startup actually, I poured so much, like love and energy into it, and really thought that I was going to do that for the rest of my life. It actually did end up failing after 5 years. And when I say failing, it just means we kind of ran out of funding to really sustain that sustain that robotics company. So, but what really got me, went on to my next personal journey was that our robotics company was built based on an open source software that was running all the different drones that's called PX4 based. So for those who you are not familiar with it, it's almost like the Android of drones, almost like the Android of drones. So I become the community manager. I become the community manager after the startup failed. That was managing this whole global developer community. So the very interestingly, just a lot of these different steps of my personal journey, I actually never thought of I would end up being here. But it gave me a whole new perspective, when I was start working as a community manager, and interacting with global engineers, who are all working on drones over this open source technology, made me realize, wow, software can be built like this, can be, contributed by all these different people that build together from around the world, and everybody owns a little piece of it. It's very different than when I was growing up in terms of how I understood like technology was developed, was commercialized, and then so that's kind of like how I went about, for several years. And at that time, I was actually also working remotely, based in China. So when I was in China, I was able to collaborate with the rest of the world via this open source community. But at the time, really also working with the manufacturers in China, worked with a lot of different hardware companies like Seed Studio, like DF Robot, all these open source hardware companies. And so later wise, how why I'm standing here today, is the when pandemic hit, that I decided really to leave China and go back to the US, and I end up working for Hackster.io. And Hackster.io, again, the really for those of you, you can go onto the website. There's many open source projects, that's based on Arduino, Raspberry Pi. People really use it to get resources for tutorials that they can show off to either their students, or they're researching for their own inspirations. We do a lot of really fun stuff. We do monthly virtual community gathering, interviewing people from around the world, different amazing makers. All these things you probably already know or are familiar with, so I don't need to spend more time here in talking about that, and I can talk with you later on giving you a live demo of the website itself. But like I said, I'd really love to curate, just from live here, a panel for those of you who want to talk a little bit more about your community. And I'm specifically super interested in different communities from different parts of the world, because what we are at Hackster as a mission is that we want to make technology more accessible to the rest of the world. One of the really cool things that I do at Hackster is I run the contest. And for Hackster contest, usually it's this really exclusive hardware that's launched by the company, NXP, NXP, or Infineon, those big name silicon companies that usually don't do the two individual developer communities type of sell to them, but we leverage the contest to reach out to actually reach our global audience, and send these hardwares to those regions in the world so they can participate in these contests. And although that sounds probably not super special, but to me it is, because it's not until I after start operating these contests, I realized how important some of these hardware in different regions of the world actually is. I come from US, or China background, where in China, when we order hardware, you can literally get it the next day. Right? We have Taobao. It's a very different supply chain ecosystem than the rest of the world. So I'd love to just see, for those of you who are here, sitting here today at this moment with me, where are you from? Which continent you are from? I'd love to talk about some of like what your lab is, what some of the projects you worked on. Like I said, I used to curate like panelists, but I think for this event, if some of you haven't got a chance to get on the stage or chat or talk, this is kind of like open mic, and I'd love to learn from you. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to join my panel? Or I can just kind of go around and let everyone introduce yourself. Is that okay? Yeah? Or do I have
I hate stages and I have to be on it later already, but I love what you're doing. And I am actually part of a global community of makers, hackers. We call ourselves innovators, for lack of a better word. And it's mostly social innovation that we're aiming for, using technology to achieve it. It's called GIG, Global Innovation Gathering, and there's quite a few of us here, not here, but at the Fab Fest. And we always love to connect to more people. We are, I think, around 180 from 43 countries or so, majority from the so-called Global South. And Global South, so not Europe and not North America. And yeah, I was intrigued by what you said because one of our members just shared the architectural designs of a house in a refugee camp in Uganda on GitHub. So speaking of houses. And yeah, I also didn't want to leave you hanging because that's always so weird when you say, hey, does anybody want to come on stage? And then nobody wants to. So here I am. And it really is getting better the longer you stand here. So asking the others, or I like the idea of going around. I'd do it.
Can we go around? So if we go around, does a person need to get up here? Can we go on camera? Or they can just be where they at? Well, everybody, we can just stay at their seat. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Oh, I get to do this? Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, we just started kind of like going around the circle and have everybody introduce yourself.
You came running. Oh, hi. My name is Emilio Vélez, yeah, and I'm from El Salvador. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we go around.
Hi, my name is Yulia Lenina and I'm from Kiev, Ukraine.
Hello, I am Charles from the Philippines. Thanks.
And you run a Fab Lab?
We started the first Fab Lab in the Philippines, and now that's almost 40. Right now, I'm mostly supporting a lot of them externally. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jan Thaler from Germany. We have also a small makerspace there, running a small community where we still need to decide if we are German or because we are in Aachen, close to the borders to Netherlands and Belgium. So it's kind of always interregional. Aachen. So where Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium come together. So our first makerspace were right across the border. in the Netherlands, which was kind of complicated the last 2 years when either our country was closed or the maker space was closed. So now it's kind of boring. Both maker space and association is in Aachen.
So interesting to learn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sonia. I'm from Czech Republic, from FabLab Brno. We have only one makerspace, but we built the probably still world's largest mobile FabLab. It's called FabLab University Track. And we will also organize FabX event in 2025 in Czech Republic. So you are all welcome.
Hello, I'm Daniel from Brazil. I work in a university Fab Lab. Brazil has over 50 Fab Labs spread in the country. I'd like to make a question for you. So, building a community is something very hard for me, and I don't clearly understand that. So I know some people are already getting hired to be community managers or community builders. So if you know a set of things we should do or care about in this topic, that would be very nice if you could share later.
Can we hold on this to answer this, or should I answer that now? These are the Fab Lab.
Hello, I'm Ida from Fab City Foundation, and I work with the Fab City Network. So, scale it up part.
Got everyone? We got everyone? I think these are all the Fab folks. Okay. Oh, over there. No? Okay. All right. Awesome. So we have Fab Lab from Philippines, from Germany, from Czech Republic, and Brazil. Amazing. So that's across, how many continents already, right? Asia, Europe, and South and Latin America. So in terms of, one thing that I always fascinates me is, when implementing things on the global scale and on the local scale. So one of the question was that, what does a community manager do, right? This actually talk was supposed to be about community. And actually, when I first fought into the role of community manager, I did not know about, what to do at all either. And now, and I guess, now after my years of, having that role, I would say it's a people person. I think the easiest way of, really describing it is, the people connector. We talk about developer community, and I always say that, engineers, because in our community, most of the members or most of the people are actually hardware engineers, embedded systems engineers, and they have their specific type of either language or set of values or things that of interest to them. And really to dig into their persona and just connect with them on a human level is super important. So in terms of what we do at Hackster is that, we organize events, and most of the time the events will talk about things that interest them. That's, sounds really basic, but that type of creating the container and creating the space for your community member, I think, is one and foremost thing that a community manager do. You are the facilitator. I hope that if that answers your question. And I'd love to hear from, others, I actually think so. For most of the Fab Lab, if you're like either a director or kind of like a manager, however that title is, in your lab, you are technically a community manager, right? You deal with all the members, and have all things that's set up. So yeah, like a people manager. And I'd love to know. So from my perspective, at Hackster, we try to enable people have better access to these open source hardware, from around the world. Whether it's a contest that we physically send out these hardware to the two different regions, by applications, or it's the open source content that's hosted on Hackster's website. But what else you think that would be useful to your region, to your community, to help you? This is a question to you guys. Yes. Yeah.
So for the 10 years ago, I was doing lots of work with volunteer management. Oh, I have to stand up? Okay, whoa, nice. I'm all wet, man. Yeah, never mind. So, for many years I did volunteer management for nonprofits, and I find that it's very similar to the work with maker communities because it's also a lot of volunteer work. So one of the things that I've found that it's really useful is to give, in short term, some sort of a reward or satisfaction factor to people who come to the community. They come for hackathon, 8 hours, so what's at the end of that? But, I take this home, or I get to be part of this community. So always think of the system of rewards so that newcomers can feel welcome and that they can achieve something even if they don't know much, and that more experienced people don't get bored. So yeah.
So how can Hackster help you?
Oh yeah, I think like projects and things that have been done in other parts of the network that have been useful to be replicated would be awesome, right? So hey, this Fab Lab or this makerspace did this activity, and this, you can do it too. Here's all the information, like small things that people can say, we need to do a workshop for this group of children or adults, or so something like that could be probably useful for the community in general.
So you're saying right now, no such points? Anybody else? So for our friend here who's just started the first Fab Lab in Philippines, maybe, what are your current challenges in terms of setting up the lab?
Well, the Fab Lab in the Philippines became a government project under a project called the Shared Service Facility to foster innovation by supporting local manufacturers, the MSMEs, and at the same time, because they have to partner with a state university, it also assists the students in that same university. In terms of challenges, I think one is understanding what the Fab Lab or the Maker culture is, because sometimes it honestly sometimes becomes a print shop where they just go there to print stickers or make trophies and all that. But we're trying to work that out within the whole Philippine network on pushing a much better marketing strategy for it. And then the other thing is just really the struggles of most of the staff members in the Fab Lab, because they're also faculty members. So there's a lot of things that they have within their responsibilities that not everything that is expected within a Fab Lab or a makerspace is something that they can do, especially those activities that would really make the Fab Lab more relevant, which are the community work that we need to be doing. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. These are actually the exact things I'd really love to learn, in terms of different dynamics, in different country. In the last few days, I talked to, like people run Fab Lab, let's say in Korea, right? Or in other parts of the world that I'm not familiar with, and it's all very different settings that I'm learning, the global and local perspective. That's, I think, super unique to this network. What about in our European counterparts, like in your region? You said like the 3 country.
Yeah, but I think we are on the very non-professional side. So beforehand, I worked in the Fab Lab in the University in Aachen. So that was the first Fab Lab in Germany. But then I switched to the kind of hobby project. So it was kind of we are just pooling everything we have and have few people who just want to build stuff. And then it starts escalating. So we get this kind of room in a co-working space right across the border in this kind of in the Netherlands for free, and then pool the machines. And now we are on our way to kind of, do we make this more professional or not? Because we had the nice thing that it was just hobby project. So it was kind of whoever wants to do something does it. And now it's kind of, damn it, we got money for it. So originally it was completely kind of member funded, and now we are kind of doing some projects basically for government organizations, but that's project funding. So it's not for the lab, it's not funded, but we get money kind of to buy machines. It's this kind of balancing out of the original idea that we should just do things for fun and use the online tool to share the knowledge. And this kind of, okay, if we do the project work, now it's kind of, we have to do something. So we get deadlines. It's just unused. We need to figure it out.
To share something? Yeah. What is kind of like your biggest challenge right now in Czech Republic?
I had a time to think about it a bit. So I think we are facing currently 2 big challenges. The first one is because we are focusing on education mostly, and we work with the schools, students and teachers. And I think we know how to interact and how to engage students, as our lecturers are only a few years older than the students themselves. So this works, but we are failing to work with teachers because they're very overloaded in Czech environment, and they have lots on their shoulders, and we are failing to like present digital fabrication as something that they should or could work on and pass the knowledge to their students. So this is a big challenge for us. And also in our makerspace, we mostly provide the know-how and tools for the makers, and we are not like curating their projects. So they're also they usually works on their individual projects, and maybe it will be interesting to like come up with some challenge for them to work together to like build stronger network, to provide an environment and a task for them. So yeah, but we didn't do it. We haven't been doing it yet, but I think it would be interesting. So yeah, if we can maybe try to learn from you and take some of your projects that you are providing, some of the open source one, and work on that. So thank you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for resource-wise, I always tell people just, please go just check out hackster.io. There are so many, projects on there. You are able to, if you, let's say you have like Arduino, based project, you can go to the whole Arduino platform, find bunch of, these different, and it's different types of tutorials because it's all user-generated content. It's not written by one person. So you can maybe, find 20 or 30 different types of like Arduino tutorial based on if you like that writer or that author's style. Yeah, so it can get really, diverse and useful in terms of that kind of content.
Just because this problem with kind of certain people who are kind of should be interested in technology, but kind of lacks the language barrier. So normally we tend to kind of publish in English, just kind of because we are used to it. But then at some point we just find out that it's kind of we would need to have also the German translations, and it's always kind of a struggle to, oh no, now we have to do this the second time, we don't want it, and there's no real so I'm not sure if it's for Hexa. Normally you don't have this kind of switch between languages, and maybe that would be something cool, like the deeper automatic translations are impressive good nowadays, so it's kind of this auto-generated translations would be I think kind of cool.
I would agree with that, because I think in this festival I haven't seen a lot of Chinese. I met this other like Chinese member, but when I was in China, that was a huge problem in terms of translation. Yeah, and the content itself.
I would just like to add to that, because something like a year ago, we launched a tutorial website, like platform, with the tutorials on YouTube. And I know there is a lot of content and tutorials on digital fabrication in English. And we just tried it. We didn't know if it will work or not. But the channel is very popular. We have few hundreds of new subscribers every month. So like this was an experiment, and it turns out that even though Czech people speak English very well, they prefer to consume that kind of content, like more technical one, in their native language. So that turns out to be a big success for us if we do this content in the native language. Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome.
So second question, I'll move back to community management. Okay. There is this very huge amount of technical information available that I can replicate in the website. But the result of that is I am more skilled after that. So how do I express myself to the market that I have this skill, and which is the market? Where are the companies searching for that knowledge, if there is any? So this kind of overall big communities management, that will help. So pharmaceutical industry likes this kind of knowledge. You can learn more about that in this set of 50 tutorials. Aerospace would like, we suggest basic, medium, and advanced, these 200 tutorials. And this would be nice. Like, okay, agribusiness is working with robots. If you want to start that, and there's a different approach to the content in a way that people will relate to their added value in terms of skills, and that maybe would be an engagement engine, because I would be driven for further results and career patterns. Maybe. What do you think?
Yeah. So when I was doing community management for the global PX4 community, that was the hardest task, is to set like the journey from a beginner, like who just coming into the community and trying to learn the technical aspects of things, all the way up until like the maintainer level, who actually is the author of that, the author and the maintainer for the open source projects. Because then there's developers from around the world putting in these feature requests and trying to get merged onto the GitHub, to refresh that code, as an open source project, and that becomes a very, very high level type of community management role, almost like a project manager already. That's aside of the community. So it's very tricky. And I would say, it's an art itself. It doesn't actually, I haven't really found anything that's just super, like a good, that everyone has their own recipe in terms of like building up that content. I don't know if I answer your question. Mm-hmm.
You explained the journey from the website to the user. Do you have any ideas about how the companies can search the skill that is offered to be developed in the orchestras and then go to the user? Because maybe it's not a list, but just a way, roughly.
So what I found that's really fascinating is that there are actually company recruiters come to Hackster.io to scout talents. So it really depends on the author, of that open source project, how well they document their project. So how Hackster is set up is that you have like your hardware components, your software components, your code, your 3D model, and your whole story. And this applies, with contests as well as just a general Hackster project, where the judges, usually when they look at the project, they look at how well you document. So I think in terms of just from that aspect, educating the members or the developers that the documentation, the importance of the documentation, and just how to generate better documentation is the gold and the golden rule.
Can I come to you later for detailed information?
Absolutely. How are you doing on time? 10 minutes? 10 more minutes? Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to ask us any more questions or to each other? Or we're in general just probably bored here. And I mean, if there's no more questions, we could cut short 10 minutes, like finish 10 minutes early, of this session, let everybody get some rest. You can find me later around. I also have a bunch of stickers, to give as gift if you guys, are interested in just, cool stickers around. Like I said, happy just to meet with anyone and chat in general. Thank you all.
Do we have Christian Casbrera here? 10 minutes. Okay, we're gonna be right back in 10 minutes. 15 minutes. So let's see how that goes. Walter, the stage is yours.
Sí. Come on, translator of official. Vamos a ser breve. En la presentación del libro vamos a pasar un video de uno de los autores y en la última parte ya hago mi intervención. ¿Sí? ¿Podemos ponerlo ya el video? Sí.
Okay, so it's gonna be very brief, but then we're gonna start with a video from one of the authors of the book.
Sí.
Yeah.
De los autores del libro.
Hello, my name is Cristian Cabrera. I'm a PhD student at the University of Ottawa. My research focuses on the study of new spaces of production like co-working spaces, fab labs, and maker spaces, as spaces appropriate for the emergence of a new economic model. In this context, Professor Walter Gonzalez invited me to be part of the book that we are now presenting, the impact of new technology on the future of research, development, and innovation, and the intellectual property crafts. The purpose of this book is to discuss the relationship between the Fab Labs network and the communities of artisans in Latin America, from the point of view of intellectual property and the collective creation. I contributed to this book with the introduction and a chapter called Rethinking the Notion of Property, a Liberal Criticism of Neoliberalism. The relationship between the Fab Labs network and the artisan community can be observed from a different perspective, but in my opinion, the economic perspective is the most important one. That is why I decided to start the introduction of the book by explaining the economic model in which I think the proposal of the Fab Labs network is situated. This economic model is known in the literature as knowledge economy, knowledge-based economy, or cognitive capitalism. The difference between this model and the industrial model, which is the previous one, is that now the knowledge is at the center of the process and not the material or natural capitals. The process of knowledge production are decentralized in order to involve a larger number of stakeholders in this process. In the case of Latin America, there is an intention to create collaborative projects between the Fab Labs network and the different communities of artisans. From an anthropological perspective, which focuses not on economic data such as GDP, but on the daily lives of the actors, the living conditions of artisans in Latin America are precarious. Many of them carry out their activities in the informal economy. The relationship between this actor and the Fab Labs network could contribute in this sense to improve this situation. For instance, in terms of the agility of the production process, the inclusion of women in this process, the attractiveness of young people towards the craft, and so on. However, this relationship also creates a new problem that must be taken into account. In this book, we identified with the following problems. The question of intellectual property in an heterogeneous context of collective creation, the accentuation of inequality within this group as a result of the variability of access to the technology, the weakening of associative ties between artisans communities, and the so-called cultural authenticity of the created object. This book reflects on these aspects from the point of view of the concepts presented by Jean-Luc Peyret in previous works. I'm talking about the concept of neo-handicraft and craftivism. The concept of neo-handicraft highlight the positive aspect of the relationship between the Fab Labs network and the communities of artisans. The concept of craftivism warns against the negative one. It must be noted that these positions are not considered in opposing terms, but as two positions called to complement each other according to the type of problem they face. It is in this sense that I recommend to read the different chapters who composed the books. In the chapter I wrote, I present the example of the Linux hacker community to propose legal figures that allow each participant to the collective creation to have control over the evolution of his or her contribution. This allows to create relationships of trust between the partners. The notion of leadership that these communities hold is also interesting to consider, since it is not a fixed figure, but in constant negotiation, depending on the different circumstances. In my opinion, this allows to avoid the formation of groups of elites within the relationship. Obviously, this proposal has its limits, particularly due to the problems of technological apartheid that exist in Latin America. The chapter included in the section of craftivism of the book offers some clues to reflect on these issues. I leave you with the Maximiliano Matus, the other coordinator of the book. Thank you for having me. I wish you a good continuation of the panel.
Vamos a pasar otro video y vamos a invitar también a Emilio Vélez que nos dé su testimonio no sé dónde está. Sí, sí. Y este es el libro, Emilio, en que estamos compartiendo este debate. Es un debate dinámico que se abre en torno a la propiedad intelectual dentro del entorno maker y Faber, ¿no?
Okay, so we're gonna pass another video of another of the authors, and then Emilio is also gonna join briefly to talk about his part of the book.
Sí, y que vamos a escuchar ahorita a Matus, que es uno de los gestores, autores del libro, y ya. Y luego nos comparte Emilio su...
Hello friends, this is Max. As you know, I'm also coordinator of this book. I want to share with you a little bit about craftivism. Craftivism is a way of expressing a political statement about our own identities, about who we are. It's also a way of promoting revitalization of your language, for example, as Jean-Luc Perité did in a project he developed with his group. Is a way of developing, for example, some handicrafts that are talking about your pluriverse, about your cosmology, about your specific and unique way of being part of this world. So to say, craftivism speaks against globalization, against mass production, against those handicraft without identity. That doesn't mean that people who works more with the concept of craftivism, that they don't want to be part of the capitalism system, but that means that they want to be part of it with specific rules to be recognized as main producers, to be respected, to make the world understand that handicraft is not only an object, but is part of their identity. And that's the reason because there is a lot of value on it. It is also because there is a lot of knowledge in it. So that it has been in heritage. So in this way, we can say that somehow craftivism talks more about the particular identity of an indigenous group that wants to make a political statement in the world. However, we can also find craftivism maybe in another alternative groups or subalternal groups that wants to make also a political statement, not only indigenous, maybe peasants, maybe women who want also to make a specific statement about equal rights. So the point here is that with this concept, we can make use of production to fight for our rights. How does this relate with digital fabrication? Well, because with digital technologies, artisans can explore more ways about how to become, let's say, more creative in their own way. So to say, for example, when a specific indigenous group wants to develop or another handicraft to be sold in the market, to differentiate about those that are already there, they can make use of new technologies, yeah, to accelerate the process and to create new dialogues between the traditional way that they deal with matter and the way that new technologies deal with matter. And in this encounter, they can create new possibilities. One point that is important to say about these people that somehow identify themselves in the area of craftivism and that are part of this book that we're presenting to you is that they want also to look for new arrangements in the, let's say, in the law, in the recognition of who is the owner of what is produced. Why do we need new arrangements? Well, because the laws that exist in some places are very bureaucratic, and because in other places it's difficult to understand who is the author of this handicraft. And in the way that some people is proposing to develop new arrangements, for example, they are thinking also about how to use the new technologies, traceability of the new technologies in order to be clear about how a handcraft starts to differentiate of the traditional forms and how the matter transformation can be registered also through technology. So this is an important part of craftivism as well. And also is very important another point for the people that is close to this concept, which is more about groups, more about cultural groups, more about societies, more about who we are. It's not only about one person who is very good in the appropriation of new technologies for creating handicraft. No, it's about how we as a group can create better handicraft, how we as a group learn to use new technologies, how we as a group make with those new technologies the reproduction of our pluriverse for the future. So we invite you to have a look to the book and to learn from those proposals and to also take it into account maybe in some of your projects and to fight for your own rights through digital appropriation, through handicraft and through craftivism. So thank you very much and I wish you the best. Saludos.
Gracias. A ver, breve porque
Yeah, I'll take a couple minutes. I think I can talk briefly about my chapter, saying that I found a discrepancy or a big conflict between the uses of intellectual property and um, craftivism and maker expressions that are from time ago. And there are a couple points. One is the reason or the origin of the creation. So I made a comparison between the collectivist approach and an individualist approach, and what are the points of difference and of commonalities between both. You can see that in, for example, the maker culture, the desire to be yourself, but which is not really present, for example, in the crafts culture, where people don't even think of something created as an embedded expression of themselves, but rather of the community. So that is one. And then the second one has to do with the goal for which something is created, right? And you see that in the expression of what intellectual property is, it is a way of giving someone a monopoly. So there's always the commodification of making or of thinking, right? So in the end of the chapter, I talk a little bit about how open licenses create a way for making some leeway into resolving these differences, and how open licenses bring together the commonality aspects, or the group aspects of making and of maker culture, and the individualist aspects of crafts. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias. Para ir terminando y cerrar la presentación del libro, los conceptos que se están usando son nuevos y están en constante modificación. Inclusive en el idioma inglés son conceptos nuevos, ¿no? El craftivismo, la neoartesanía, cambian de concepto de acuerdo al país donde se quiera aplicar.
So just to close, all of these are new concepts, well, the craftivism, and actually even word that doesn't even exist in English yet, I would say. And the thing is, it is not only about that, it's also like each country has like a different approach to it based on their culture. And the idea of the book is to gather all of these experiences, to see the different in all of the, I mean, we can see there's like 25 different countries.
Este libro aporta nuevas definiciones de acuerdo a las experiencias de los proyectos de los diferentes Fab Lab. En cada Fab Lab, de los que están participando de estos 25 autores, han tenido, se han enfrentado a este problema de la propiedad intelectual, ¿no? Y comparten acá su testimonio, ¿no?
So the common theme between all of the different projects that are showcased in the book is that there's like a challenge regarding the intellectual property. Like everyone, every lab that deal like some crafting project, okay, they can understand that maybe the local crafting, the culture, and the knowledge. But then there's always the barrier of the intellectual property and what to do about it.
Y el aporte académico, científico de este libro es que propone nuevos arreglos, nuevas relaciones, nuevas definiciones, redefiniciones del concepto de propiedad intelectual en los espacios maker y en las comunidades de artesanos ancestrales, ¿no? O sea, los nuevos artesanos versus los antiguos artesanos, ¿no? Bueno, muchas gracias y este libro lo pueden descargar, lo vamos a dejar en la página del evento, ¿no? Está en inglés y castellano. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
So for the ones that are interested, we are posting somewhere a link with the book, so it's free. You can just download it. And it's not only, I mean, it's all of those books. So it's like 5 different books that Walter has been writing over the years. So yeah, it will be somewhere. I don't know where, or just look for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Yeah, and that was Walter and his panel with the impact of new technologies of the future and intellectual property crafts. So he has 3 books so far. I think, yeah, we can download it on this session as part of the website. We can add them there so that you can click on it and download it if you're interested. And now we're going to continue with our agenda. And we're going to have some special guests from, Fran, are they connecting online? Is that correct? Yes. So we're going to have some special guests join us today from Ukraine online. And we have one of their representatives here. So I'm going to introduce you to Victoria. I'm sure I'm not going to spell that correctly. What's the last name?
Wenzelmann.
That's correct. And she is going to have a little panel discussion about Tolokar, humanitarian mobile makerspaces in Ukraine. So hope they are online, and that we can start. Hi, I think we can see you there. Can you see us? Or can you see it? I don't know where. They're seeing us there. So thank you so much for joining us today from far. Well, not that far, but yeah, a little bit far away. So, and I'm gonna give the panel to Victoria. So, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And like Norella said, we're joined here by Konstantin Leonenko from Ivano-Frankivsk at the moment. Yuri Vlasyuk from Makers Hub in Kiev has not connected yet. I hope it's nothing serious. And we have in person here Yulia Alenina from Incha Osvita in Kiev as well. So a warm welcome to Yulia. Francisco is still connecting, and sorry. Oh, we want to do a quick test? No?
Okay. Can you try to have a conversation with them?
Konstantin, how are you? And where are you? No, we can't hear him. Oh. Is it coming from my computer now? Yes. Okay. No. Sorry, we tested this yesterday. Yes, hello. Okay, we got it now. Yes, we can hear you well. I wanted to say a few words about the Tolokars and how we came to be here. So Tolokars are humanitarian mobile makerspaces in Ukraine, and I don't know why this is not going to full screen, but it doesn't have to. Um, it's a project that's implemented by GIZ, Midost, and HIVW, both or all three from Germany. It's commissioned by BMZ, which is the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the project partners are Platform Ostrov, MetaLab, Intra Bur, and Maker Hub from Ukraine, and Kados also from Germany. So just to give you an overview of how many people are already involved, and you're all very warmly invited to get involved remotely as well. And the whole idea is Makers Gonna Make. That was also the title of an event that Platform Ostrov held last month. And it's, I mean, you know it, you all won't stop making either. And this is where we are in Ukraine with the partner organization. So as you see, everything is pretty far in the west, not in the eastern regions. And this is one of the Tolokas taken from above. I really like this picture. And I'm the one who's only giving you the numbers. So it's 4 mobile makerspaces built and deployed at this point. The last 2 just traveled over the border a few days ago. We have humanitarian actions implemented already. We have cultural relief activities about which Julia will tell us more. There's a life systems laboratory support that's going on. We do training for local makers to operate the cars. And there have been very few online exchange sessions, and I'm hoping to kick off a lot more. To give you an impression, everybody's taking pictures. This is very, very nice. And these pictures are very recent. So here you can see the latest two Tolokas that were sent off on Friday. And I used this picture of Daniele showing us the laser, the Fabulaser Mini that he put into both of these trucks, what he presented here on this stage at the opening ceremony. Thank you again for that. And here you can see us with the Fabulaser that was built during the FabFest, same one that is in the trucks. And the connection to the Fab Foundation has also been strong for Ukrainians ever since the war started in February. And for all of you who have not read it, there's a very strong letter of support. And I want to say that I could feel this support here as well from all of you. And it's been heartwarming, and I passed it on to the project partners in Ukraine, and want to thank you very, very much. And with this, I'm going to stop here. How we're going to do this is that Konstantin will tell us a little bit about the makers and makerspaces in Ukraine before the war, since the war started, and hopefully also be able to give us a tour of the actual trucks. And then if Yuri comes in, he's going to talk about the maker activities in detail. He's going to introduce a few makers from Ukraine and their projects since February 24th. And then we have Julia, who's going to tell us more about the Toloka activities so far. So with that, Konstantin, over to you. Yes.
Let me share my presentation. So, focus on something mildly existential about technology for society from the Ukrainian perspective. So this is going to be a slightly different presentation than what probably people like been through at Podcast. It will be a lot about making. It will be particularly my journey in building digital application and Fab Labs in Ukraine. And in that context, I want to tell how, hopefully we'll be able to trace the path how Toloka is a logical continuation of everything that's going, and how we basic day in the life of 150 million Ukrainians right now. I would translate it. Means body part, pretty balance with waterfall, vegan food, meeting after months of separation, diapers and bags. Please donate tomorrow. Hug. Air regular. News. We'll make it through. Ha ha ha. Boxes, boxes, boxes. Marriage. For two. Base. Where's the pain threshold? This is kind of oscillation between pain and joy, tragedy and joy, and comedy on a minute per minute basis, just as a baseline for operating for 50 million people currently. So a bit of morning news from last couple of days. The good news, well, not so good news, that Iran has sold 2,400 kamikaze drones to Russia. The good news on that is that yesterday Ukrainian army shot down 16 of 16 drones that were launched against Kiev. So Ukrainian army is picking up some defense. The complicated news, though, is that Israel is now in a big predicament as to how they will be supplying Ukraine with whether they will be supplying Ukraine with arms, and how they're going to deal with Iran, that is now a much stronger military force, which Israel is in conflict with. The war is spreading in places you don't necessarily expect. So it's important that we all keep a close eye on what's happening. And it is a bit of, for some people, it feels like this is a reality show where at every moment you question, when is your role in this show? When is the script gonna touch you necessarily directly? So a lot of people are already in it. A lot of people are watching it from the distance. Some people think it has nothing to do with them, but it has to do with everyone. So my brief story starts here about Fab Labs. That in 2012, I went to Donetsk, to my hometown after spending almost a decade abroad. I went to set up our first lab. It was called ISO Lab, part of Isolation Foundation. This is our first Prusa Mental printer, our first interns. This was our beautiful space, communal work area, big table, well lit, gallery space, beautifully renovated. This is our signature spaghetti architecture workshop. Before we got any of our digital fabrication machines, we started building community, and this was kind of the cheapest and easiest way to get people engaged, and it worked marvelously. Here you can see my childhood friend. He's a traffic cop who is as far kind of removed from anything creative and hands-on person as you may meet, but here him admiring a beautiful vase he built out of spaghetti. This workshop makes wonders. Here's me with two of my friends cutting the ribbon for the ISOLAB 0.5 launch shortly after we received our first laser cutter. The friend on the right, I haven't heard from him in 3-4 months probably now. He has been drafted from the street into the next People's Republic Army. Nobody heard from him since. This is a collection of old Soviet science magazines called Science and Life. It was the classic Soviet publication that, well, basically kind of, it's nerds heaven. It's here in these boxes, there are either 30 or 50, however long the magazine existed. It's a full subscription with only a couple issues missing. That was one of the things I purchased specifically for the library in the lab to kind of to create better connection with the engineering heritage so rich in Ukraine, and all of the engineering community that was there, was in Donetsk. Here's a bit of how our summer looked like. This, how many? 3, 6, 10 interns we had that summer in 2013. None of these people stayed in Donetsk shortly after. They had to flee. This was our building that we were designing, renovating from scratch. We were pouring concrete floors to host heavy machinery, to put beautiful CNC mills in there. This is Stas, one of our volunteers, him designing a balancing puzzle with an Arduino and an accelerometer. Currently, Stas is a teacher at Borevita Military School. He teaches Ukrainian soldiers to build antennas and fly drones. These are our soldering workshops for Bristol boats. The female to male ratio female representation was incredible. This was the pictures were not picked for this purpose, but there were a lot of, I mean, the youngest we had a 5-year-old girl soldering at our workshops. People would come there as whole families. Sometimes parents would bring their kids and then join them in the process. We were building some weird musical instruments, making festivals, and at one of the spaghetti workshops, some engineers got bored. They decided to get some Arduinos and plug some servo motors, and a spaghetti robotics workshop was born. Can you hear the sound? Yeah.
We are watching you.
The sound is a bit patchy.
Are you afraid of the Cookie Monster? Are you afraid of the Cookie Monster? Get down.
That was fun. That's probably one of the cheapest, most intuitive and ways to teach robotics I've discovered so far. We were doing laser cutting workshops, but we would add a bit of rock and roll into them. So we would invite our participants to remodel and design their Guitar Hero's favorite instruments. So we're having a lot of fun making these workshops, teaching people this stuff. In late 2013, I left to do the Fab Academy course in Boston. from this beautiful airport. And a year later, this is what the airport came to be. So some of our visitors at our events were people like Roman Lagan, who brought his families. He participated in communal events, and a little bit later, he was the person who held the referendum for the independence of Donetsk People's Republic. Shortly after that, Roman brought his friends, and he brought more friends to our place. So Islab was part of a big cultural initiative, was a big renovation plan for an old factory. So we had a lot of big industrial spaces. It was a good location, so they decided they liked the sport. They knew the sport, they saw its condition, they understood its value, and they just decided to take it. So this is what it currently looks like. You can see there's prisoner detention cells, there's forced labor sites, torture sites. This is one of the image. If you don't know what a torture site would look like, it's all that's needed is an old Soviet crank phone that delivers high voltage, some wires, some water, and some tape. Here's Stanislav Vaseyev, a journalist who spent 1.5 years in that prison. He came out, luckily, and wrote detailed accounts, detailed book on what he experienced there. I will not get into graphic details, but it is there. So that was Isolab. The next attempt, several years later, involved together with the Swiss NGO Terre des Hommes, some representatives of it among the attendees and organizers of the conference. Jean-Michel is there. So we went to set up a small network of labs in Eastern Ukraine. You can see that we started in 2017 with first assessments, scouting, understanding what the needs are. And by the end of 2 years, the last program we launched was in 2020. We had 3 full-scale labs. We had it's not in this slide already, but we had something like 8 mini labs around, and it was a very active small network of fab labs along what was called the contact line. So these are the kids from Novaida Agrarian Lyceum. We held this fold scope workshops with them, because for the whole lyceum they only had one optical microscope that could not be that was a bottleneck for their teaching and learning. At the same time, this is the posters that were displayed everywhere around the school. This is kind of the environment that kids operated under. It's regarding the leftover ammunition and mines in the woods. So yes, it will explode. Yes, it will maim or kill, and your friends too. These are ladies from Zolote Lyceum, whom we have trained in embroidery and 3D printing. Extremely enthusiastic bunch. They went full on integrating 3D printing and embroidery into all of their processes, into all of their teaching, particularly for cooks, for tailors. These are photos from the Fab Lab Sever in Severodonetsk University. Actually, it was Lysychansk University that fled to Severodonetsk. Some more examples of beautiful embroidery from Zolote. This is one of my favorites. There on the top right, you can see little 3D printed pigs that hold pieces of salo, which is national Ukrainian delicacy. It's just pure pig's fat with skin on. So it was a really active place, and here are train the trainers workshop I held in Severodonetsk in 2020. You can see it was in the beginning of the pandemic. Everybody is in mask. We had to take a lot of measures to make it happen. We were teaching them to kind of make little casts and candles, kind of how to integrate these very high tech tools into very low tech environments for people to make to be able to kind of find some applications for it locally. Some examples of vinyl cut work at Popasna Lyceum. They had huge culture of poster making. And after a while of kind of understanding what sort of format would fit them better, we supplied them with the vinyl cutter. There was one particularly interesting thing about the Terdezom network. The way the approach we took is that we equipped 3 reasonably complete kind of full-scale labs, even kind of on a smaller budget, but fully featured all the processes. And in the network around it, in all of the lyceums, we supplied them 1 or 2 machines each, but each one was very specifically chosen to work well with the local curriculum, with the local expertise, with the local culture. It was a very slow approach, but it worked miracles when people, rather than being overwhelmed with a lot of the capacity and capabilities of a full-featured Fab Lab, they got 1 machine and spent a year with it, mastering it, and then some of them went further, investing into their own machinery, even fundraising for it themselves. So there's some kids' playground toys that were built in Popasna. These are some Generacja UA. This is actually an organization with whom we're having workshops next week. It's a small lab set up in again in Severodonetsk, and now they escaped to Western Ukraine. A group photo from the training from the hall of Hotel Mir, and here's some latest footage I could find from the Hotel Mir. I will not let you watch the whole video, but this is that same hotel, that same space that I held the workshops in, taken over by Russian army in the advance in Severodonetsk. So Mariupol, that probably word is more familiar for many of you. These more train the trainers workshops we held there. It was part of the same program. This was the business incubator 1991, where we put full lab. All of the machines were Ukraine built. Of course, there were some Chinese and American and European parts, but all machines were chosen to be built and assembled in Ukraine to keep the expertise very local, well, except for some. But then, yeah, this is the footage of Mariupol shortly after. We'll not go into the details. And now on to Tolokas, the third third wave of kind of bringing digital fabrication into Ukraine. So as Vicky has said, it has a huge number of partners, which makes the project a little bit confusing to some, but at the same time, it shows the kind of the urgency, the resilience, and the common understanding and the alignment between all of these partners. It is a miracle to be able to pull off such a large-scale project on such a short notice. Huge hats off to Vicky and team to making it happen, to coming up with the idea, convincing the donors, and putting it all together. So right now there are in total up to 6 cars, some of them parts of different programs. And right now there's the 2 cars that I'm here sitting in one of them. The other one is just in front. I will give you a quick tour shortly afterwards. With lasers by Daniela, you can see Daniela over there. In the big image, you can see our operators with their first visits into the big truck. These are some of the workshops we did this summer with Roman Sach and the Tolaka that was already here in August. You can see these 3D printers and again, kids and Tinkercads, beautiful format, happy faces. So this is the space that the Mariupol Business Incubator 1991 that I mentioned just earlier, they have moved into a new place in Khmelnytsky. They plan on reopening and rebuilding the lab. This is the space that they have for the lab. So we're in discussion with them to drive Tolukas there and to build them a new lab. Yeah, we're at the start of this journey now here in bringing more digital fabrication for all of the to meet all various needs that Ukrainian society faces now. So a quick summary of very strange serendipitous things that kind of happen on the way is that the Path of Light Street, that is the name, that's our postal address of our first lab, Isolab. Hotel Peace was the hotel where we held our Terre des Hommes workshops and trained the trainers. And now our first address for this Toloka team, for the cars 4 and 5, it's based on Stepana Bandery Street in the Ivano-Frankivsk. For those who don't know, Stepana Bandery is the icon, the hero of Ukrainian resistance. So it kind of very serendipitously, these things kind of tell a very interesting story of this continuation. So how can you help with the project? Well, first of all, read about it, and actually this, how can you help in general? So read about the war, but be critical about what you read. Because even some of the brightest minds on our planet sometimes can have very confusing messages. So Noam Chomsky on linguistics, or Noam Chomsky on geopolitics. I like genocidal dictators because they don't like America. Is not the most constructive way of approaching the situation. It's important to recognize signs where and how Russia is trying to influence the global opinion on the situation. For example, there was this in 2014, there was this touring exhibition called Material Evidence that was displayed in some of the most progressive left cultural institutions around the globe. For example, this is I-Beam in New York, one of the most established, well-known media art galleries. And it was a very well-funded part of Russian propaganda, with advertisements plastered all over New York sideways. There are events like this when professors from Amsterdam University ask us to take seriously Russian theories about how Boeing airplane was downed. Just to remind you, one of the Russian theories about it was that the Boeing was loaded with dead bodies in Amsterdam airport and thrown into Ukraine, just kind of just to undermine Russia. This is an interesting bit where Edward Snowden gets granted Russian citizenship. So all of these things, they make a lot of people think that things are complex, things are complicated, nothing is so clear, but resist that thought. Things are very clear. So important bits, how to talk about the war. Some of you may have seen this image by an Australian artist where Russian and Ukrainian soldiers are hugging each other. It has caused a lot of pain and a lot of confusion for a lot of people. This is the Chinese artist's remake of that work, which more clearly addresses and explains and clarifies the situation. When talking about the war, make sure you use the correct language. These are not events. This is not conflict. This is not crisis. This is Russian war against Ukraine. This is Russian invasion of Ukraine. We should not be calling just end the war. It's not just about peace. It's about Putin ending the war. It is very important to be very explicit and very clear about these messages. Resist Russian blackmail. Nuclear threat is neither imminent. Russia would not be purchasing those Iranian drones if it wanted to take the nuclear threats anywhere further seriously. They just want this war to drag on as long as they can and cause as much suffering as they can along the way to try to push the West to negotiate. And nuclear threat is non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate with a regime that has repeatedly violated every nuclear-focused treaty, international treaty, while being the permanent member of UN and UN Security Council. You cannot negotiate with an actor like that. Energy prices hiking. Is it really a problem? Compared to what the world faces otherwise. And you can donate to Ukrainian army, to Brilliant Funds, Come Back Alive, Aerorozvidka. I'll put those links. And other suggestions welcome. We'll get to the workshop after the talks in the session. You can talk to colleagues, you can talk to Vicky, you can talk to Jean-Michel at FabFest, and Tobias is there. Many of our colleagues are there. Email me. Here's my email address. And as just kind of one of the closing points that I wanted to show is how quickly one develops very visceral responses to what the war brings. I bet not many of you would associate this with anything war-related. I didn't think I would until I spent several days obsessing about these little guys. These guys are called petal mines. They're little plastic explosives that will not kill people. They will just tear off your food. They're scattered all over towns in my hometown in Donetsk. And after I spent several days looking at this, trying to understand what my friends and family have to live with, I noticed that when I was walking the street of London and I saw this top cap from this kid's food pouch, I saw it lying on the street, and the first response I had was, I should not step on it. It's very quickly not even being exposed to the war itself, but thinking about it gets you there pretty quickly. When seeing this kind of curves, airplane curves in the sky, the first thing you think about that triggers pretty quickly is rocket launches, just even from the videos you've seen online. And the sound of motorcycle accelerating after some exposures to air raid sirens very quickly gets you into that space and in a very direct way. I would highly recommend everyone who wants to empathize with Ukraine and wants to understand a little bit more and a little bit deeper what 50 million people are living through every day today. Install air raid alarm apps. Here are the QR codes from Google App Store and from Apple App Store. Snap a picture, download these things. If you're serious about supporting Ukraine and supporting Ukrainian people, it would help a great deal if you could be as empathetic as you can, and there's hardly a better way of doing that than being woken up at 3 in the morning with an air raid alarm blaring from your phone, even though you're not in immediate danger, but giving a thought to people who are. And So the existential bit comes now.
Konstantin, there's two
yeah.
more speakers. Sorry. I don't want to be this
is the last
person.
slide.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you. This is the last slide, literally. So we all know the phrase, the future is here, just not evenly distributed. Bali Fab Fest slogan is also designing emergent futures. We all like and we all enjoy creating, thinking, projecting into the future, anticipating. But we should think more about that the present is here as well. It's just not evenly experienced. So if we develop empathy, if we develop awareness and understanding of those living in different situations and different circumstances, we have much better chance of working together nicely. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and effort in persevering with me through this.
I'll try to do this now. I hesitated a little bit to not distract the connection there with the cables, but it's quite the audience, and we thank you very much. I personally have the air raid alarm on my phone, and it is disconcerting, and it brings the situation home. And on that note, Yuri just texted that he is okay, but he's still not joining the call. I don't know why. And I guess this uncomfortable feeling that you may now share is exactly what we want to convey here, next to that making is one way of supporting. And we're being given the tour there in the background by Sam. Francisco, can you switch to Sam? And Sam, can you do it again?
Oh no, I can. Someone has to spotlight the host of the.
I
Zoom
have
has
to spotlight.
Sure.
Thank you. Done. Okay, so there you can. Yeah.
Printers, SD stations, milling, laser, battery backups, speakers, and then we have the big one here, which is being worked on right now by the crew. It's going to operate them, doing the first couple of workshops already on the weekend if we can manage nicely, and then the next week is already chock full of additional works.
So there you have it. Those are the two latest Tolo cars. And another layer of weird feelings here. I really rather would be there than here right now. But I'm also very happy to be with you. And I would like to pass the mic to Julia so she can tell us a little bit about the previous Tolo cars, because the first one crossed the border in May, and what they have been up to, and especially connected also to the cultural activities. And I'm gonna start the slides for you.
Hi, one more time. Yeah, my name is Julia, and as Vicky says, I the part of the team which is the partner of this project, the Insha Svita. If you will translate it to English, that's mean another education. So in general, the main goal of our organization, we are working with a non-traditional format of education for adults. So that means we are concentrate much more in the culture and educational project in Ukraine, and actually works a lot with the different partners from Europe countries, and with Mitost and GIZ partners we worked a lot before and continue works in this project. And we are in this project with makerspaces. For us that was the pilot pilot project, and we really hope we can continue it to the next years, because the results which we already have is that's super nice, and we really feel in this project is helpful for our people, and we really need it. Yeah, can we continue? I guess we can just yeah, here are more photos from the Tolocar cars, and I guess we can change it a little bit, and I will tell you when we need to stop. Yeah, that is some of our activities photos, and yeah, here we can stop. I'm a little bit explain you the name of the project, the Tolokar, what is mean. In Ukraine, we have this traditional activity which can help us to share the amount of work together and do something together. So that's mean Toloka. That's mean when you do something together and share experience, share your support, responsibility, and that helps you to make something better, faster, and have the new communication. That is really important. And the first activity which we have in this project Tolokar name is Tilo Misto. That's mean like body of the city. This activity was more culture and concentrate more teenagers, because a lot of IDPs person in the west of part of Ukraine, and we are trying to help them to find the safety space where they can feel in more safety, and try to introduce themselves to the local community, to find the new friends, and find some activity which they can do, because you look that in the summer, so there's teenagers, they are free the whole day, they need to do something, and yeah, this activity which helps them to have some rest, have some fun, and have new meets in the new city. Yeah, we can go there to the next slide. Yeah, it's more photos from this activity. Yeah, the second one more culture activity, and in this activity the guys works with the workshop with painting on the with the shops, and there is my favorite picture. Because actually the guys, all of them, there is the first experience to make the painting in this backpack, and here the scene which is signed in this back shop, that's girls make love but not with the Russians. Yeah, and that's workshops were more interesting for teenagers too. And that's one more possibility to have the safe places where you can share your experience and communicate with the new people in the new city. Yeah, we can continue to move into the next slide. And that's one more camp which named Tilo Mista, like our previous activity, first I mean, but it's in the different city. That's was in the Lviv region, and we're doing the same program, but in another city for another children, because like I said, a lot of kids become the IDPs and go to the another regions. Yeah, the next workshop, yeah, we can go. Strawberry, and here more patients were from the more from adults, and we make this activity with Platforma Ostriv, our partners from the Kiev, and these workshops were concentrated more about this sharing experience from adult to kids. And again, we're talking about the safety space where they can share experience, where they can do something, and where they can feel more safety and have some rest and fun, because now we really need it. Yeah, we can go to the next. Yeah, one more workshop is about the fleeting wool, and that's workshop once again about the bridges behind the adult and kids and teenagers, and actually here the adults have this nice experience to feeling they are still needed, they are still interesting for somebody else, and they can share their experience with the teenagers. Yeah, we can go to the next. There is the school in Motijan. There is a Kyiv region. Here we works with our partners Kadus and Bur. If you will translate the Bur from Ukraine, that's build Ukraine together, but the last R in Ukraine, that's Razom. Which is mean together, and this school was destroyed behind the occupation, and guys to cooperate and rebuild it. Yeah, and in this school we have one more culture activity. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, yeah, there is some. I guess I just skip something on my presentation, but okay. In that school, which you see right now, we have one more culture activity. We take the wall, which is 24 square meters, and making the painting on this wall with the kids who studied at the school, and with the local artist who lives in that region. And now the school is rebuilt, and in the school, kids continue their education. This workshop, again for kids, like you see, we really like the kids and teenagers. Yeah, and yeah, actually that's wall, which I said previously. And there is a territory of the school and some pictures how we paint in that wall. That was really nice experience, yeah, and we were really appreciated because we can stop here, yeah, because a local community joined us without any registration or without any invitation. They just walk around, saw something here, what is going on. They're just asking, we sharing the information, and they're like, wow, cool, can we join? Because it's really important, it's really needed for our community, for our neighborhoods. And they just join us, and that show us how it's important to have this project, how it's important to make this space, create this maker spaces process, because in Ukraine we have actually a lot of people who can do something and have some rest like this. They just need this opportunity to have rest time to do something, because it helps you to change your mind and to switch off from all of news and do something great and interesting. And that was, in this picture, there is a last of our activity, which we are doing with Metal Lab and Bur, I forget to put 3 last letters, in Ivano-Frankivsk. That's a wall in a dormitory, which rebuilt like a hostel for IDPs. Starting from March, they already live there, but the dormitory is a little bit old and gray and boring. So yeah, we put more colors there, and again we invite the local community. We invite the guys who already lives in this dormitory, and they work together. That help us to include the IDPs to the local community, which is really important, because they will stay there to the long time, and they need to have some communication and have the safety places where they can have this communication and be sure is nobody will push them or something like that. So yeah, for this time, all of activities almost done. We still have plan for one, which becomes in the end of this week. That will be mural one more time in the Motizion, if I'm correct. Yeah, and for us it's very important to create the safety place, to create the community in this place. So we continue our process with analysis of local communities and share this analysis with our partners and trying to plan the next activity for the next year. Because for now, what we already understood from this project, the Ukrainian people we really need the help, yeah, for sure. But for us, much better when we can be a part of this help, when we can do something with you, when we can share the experience and to be a part and feeling helpfully for the projects, because when you lose everything, the first, what do you want? You want to have something new, and you can name this your own. So if you have any ideas how to join us or how you want to join us or help us, welcome. We will be really glad to the new partnerships. And yeah, thank you once more for our partners for this nice opportunity to have this project in Ukraine, which is really helpful now and show how is important building the spaces and the community together. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can see, it's making and culture and maker culture all together. And I have been hoping till now that Yuri would show up, and I'm fully aware that we're 3 minutes before the end of the session. But I feel like it wouldn't really be fair to not talk about the makers in Ukraine and at least show you what they have been working on, because it's some really, really impressive stuff. And again, like Julia said, like Konstantin said, this session ends, but then we continue into a workshop where there's already more people than just Konstantin and Sam in the call, and more people will join, and you're all very much invited. We just go to the area behind us. But yeah, Yuri's from Makers Hub in Kiev. He's one of the co-producers of 15 Maker Fairs in Ukraine in the past. And one thing that's important for Tolucas is that we are very, very aware that there are different ways makers can help. And there's defense, there's civil defense, there's humanitarian activities. We focus on humanitarian activities. And so while there is defend, we focus on support and lead. And here are some of the Ukrainian makers that really make amazing things. Serhiy Vuk, that's stoves, like stoves for the deoccupied cities and villages that you probably all have heard about. And it's an impressive number of stoves that were created. Alexander built these parts for cars because it was impossible to get spare parts, so they just made them. I think many people here are nodding, so you know how it is. This is a project I personally really like, because there were towns where there was just no petrol at all anymore, and so cargo bikes were built for food delivery, also to elderly people. The 3D printed fixators, I know there's medical makers in the room as well, so this has been going on. The power banks made from car accumulators is also a very impressive project. And when it comes to LEED, here are some numbers again, and the ruined infrastructures, these are the numbers from last week. It's already worse this week, and very grateful to Yuri. He put the Tolo cars in there as one activity. Another one is that Makers Hub has been organizing online meetings of Ukrainian makers so that they can support each other, inspire each other, and just offer this space in which they can be safe and share and express their feelings, and help each other. And yeah, they are fundraising for an educational course, how to run a makerspace. And one of the goals is to deploy 400 makerspaces around the country. Also the Maker City concept, which I think ties in well with the Fab City concept. So more on this later. And Yuri's sending warm hugs to all the people who support Ukraine. And he says, thank you. And I also say thank you and invite you to support us through this workshop and continue the conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we're all here amazed of how much effort has been done locally in order to support the community with our tools and our knowledge. So thank you so much for joining us to this session online and here in person. And our next and final speakers of today, are they here yet? No, see that. Oh, yeah, they're our group from Bhutan. Basically, they're gonna show us the road to Fab 18 in Bhutan happening next year. So welcome to the stage, the whole Bhutan team, I think.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today and thank you for having us here. I think before we start, that was like a really amazing panel by Tolokar. So we were all like sitting at the back, didn't realize our time was up as well. My name is Namgyal and I am joined by my colleagues from the Superfab Lab in Bhutan. This is Chirag, Sina, Pema, and Tinley. And we're all going to be taking parts of this presentation. It's a really short presentation. We don't want to bore anyone, but we'll have around 20 minutes at the end to answer everyone's questions or, yeah, so I think let's get started. So the way our talk is structured is we realize Bhutan is still sort of an enigma to the rest of the world. So we'll provide a short introduction to Bhutan first. Then we'll go onto the Fab network in Bhutan, how it started, what motivated, and how it's sustained currently. And then we'll move on to the topic on everyone's minds, this festival next year, but in Bhutan. So I think we'll start with a short video.
Okay, so before we start, I just want someone who doesn't already know where Bhutan is and wants to guess where it is on the world map. Anyone? We have a prize, so someone can come try. Anyone? Come on, yeah. All right. Good guess. So this is Bhutan here. It's a really small country between India and China.
Hello. Yeah, even though it's really small, we're between India, China, and somewhere close to Nepal and Bangladesh, we've never been colonized. Of course, we had our war with the British Empire and also with Tibet, but that was like a long time ago, before the early 90s. But still then, we've been sovereign nation throughout the times. And so, yeah, if you look at the innovation in the country, there is not much happening in the country. Television was first started in the country in 1999, which is quite late if you look at it. And so if you see, only in 1914, formal education was introduced in the country. And before that, we had a Buddhism sort of education whereby they were taught on all the religious aspects in the country. Then only in 1961, they were shown Bhutan had its first 5-year plan. And after that, the term gross national happiness was termed by our fourth king, His Majesty Jimmy Singye Wanchu. And then tourism only began in the 74. A bunch of 287 tourists came into the country. And 2003, we had the cellular services, the first internet services in the country. And 2008, we transitioned from a constitutional monarchy to a democracy. And the democracy was not asked by the people, it was forced to the people by our kings. So if you look at the timeline, it's just been 100 years, and we're still doing a lot of work in terms of how we can bring in innovation and technology. So I'll hand it over to Pema.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, the first fun fact of Bhutan actually. So we don't have traffic lights, even at the hub of our capital city, Thimphu. And you can see in the picture, the cop actually is directing the traffic manually. And if you happen to be in Bhutan, if you decide to drive on the Bhutanese roads, and it's going to be a unique experience, probably, yes. And we actually had one earlier in the same place, but people, we didn't like it, so they removed it immediately. Yeah, so this is probably, I'm sure most of us must have come across this, that Bhutan has no traffic lights. And Dzongkha is our official language in Bhutan, even though most of us speak and understand English. But probably this is going to be a few of the words that you are going to pick up if you're interested in communicating with the locals. But don't get scared by the picture at the side. He's not the one who is going to teach you the words. And yeah, the first one being Kuzo Zangpo. This is when you meet people at the first time, you say hi, hello. And Kadinche is thankful, you're being thankful. And you might have noticed that some of our colleagues who actually, when they have collected the certificates from Professor Ni, they kind of bow down, and it symbolizes the respect that we have to the elder, and in terms of position that it's quite high to you. And the last one, Shime, it's regarding the probably I think this is that we expect you to say after trying a lot of delicious Buddhist cuisines there. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's.
So now we'll like transition into Bhutan now and how we got there. On screen is just a few of the important numbers. Like in the 20 years, our economy has grown by quite a lot. Our literacy rate is only 67%, which I guess can be considered quite low, but is steadily increasing year by year. Poverty, however, has decreased by quite a lot in just a few of like the 12 to 13 years. And it can be said that technically there are no homeless people in Bhutan. Everyone has access to electricity. Life expectancy is 72 years, which is close to the average of the world. And about half of households in Bhutan have access to internet, but almost everyone has a mobile phone.
So one of the biggest questions we were asked by our fellow participants of the FabFest Bali was, what are the major challenges Bhutan is facing? And I think how we answered that was all of our talent is leaving abroad to Australia. But these are also like our other issues that we're facing that are just as serious, if not more. So we are heavily dependent on foreign aid and foreign markets. We import way more than we export. And if we've learned anything from all of our talent leaving to abroad, is that we need to diversify the market and also invest in skills diversification. So within all of that, there is a really, really urgent need in Bhutan that has come up in the past decade for coherent economic strategy and direction. And so that's sort of where the FAB network in Bhutan sits currently. So with all of these issues, there's been major shifts in policy, there's been major transformation in the country, and a lot of these shifts historically have been inspired by Their Majesties the Kings. So I think maybe like a decade ago, His Majesty the Fifth King of Bhutan actually started talking about technology and innovation a lot more in his speeches. He started mentioning, encouraging the use of technology for people to actually obtain these digital fabrication tools and also be able to learn how to use them. So once that happened, there's been a move from within the country towards encouraging innovation. There's been a lot of agencies and organizations that have come up that are trying to help facilitate that shift. And also in terms of like encouraging STEM education through like hackathons, challenges, and also like very diverse set of opportunities.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the FAB movement in Bhutan. So the FAB movement actually started in 2017 with the establishment of the first FAB lab. And it was the vision of Ma'am Karmal Haki here and Sir Thawang. They were the ones who had this idea of bringing a FAB lab to Bhutan. So in the background here, you see our king, the king of Bhutan, who is kind of playing around with the AR VR set at the FAB lab. And actually, His Majesty the king, he's, as Namgyal mentioned, is actually pushing the country towards a more technologically driven future. So this visit, he was, I think, very inspired by it. And that's where a lot of the government interest in Fab Labs started coming from. So to the point that where in 2019, the Department of Innotech was established at a company called Druk Holdings and Investments, which actually functions as the commercial arm of the government. So this started the initial effort to set up a super fab lab. But as we all know here, 2020 COVID hit us, and this really pushed back and delayed our the setup of the Super Fab Lab. But now finally in 2020, we were able to inaugurate the Super Fab Lab along with 4 other Fab Labs in Bhutan. So this is a picture from 2017 when the first Fab Lab was inaugurated. Here we have Professor Neil Gershenfeld with the then Prime Minister of Bhutan, some colleagues from MIT, Fab Foundation and Bhutan. And the lab was powered by Dussel Systems, and actually up until recently, they were the representatives of Bhutan in the Fab network. I think maybe most of you must not have known about Bhutan until Fab 14, right? That's what Fran told me. So now from 2017, we go to 2022 with the inauguration of the Super Fab Lab by our little crown prince. He's 6 years old, and he also inaugurated 3 other Fab Labs. This is a video from the inauguration, from the event.
On His Royal Highness's first royal duty as chief guest, His Royal Highness was escorted in chibdral procession to the venue. The traditional marching ceremony was performed and the Prime Minister and other representatives of the government and Druk Holding Investments offered Kusum Thu Mende. The Fab Lab network consists of 3 additional Fab Labs located at Druk Gyalpo's Institute at Pambisa in Poro, Jimmy Wans.
Okay, that was a little clip from inauguration, and actually, as during the inauguration, we made gifts in the lab to present to the prince, and this is just some of what we presented. So the Captain America shield, he actually requested it the day before, so we had to make it in like a few hours. We made it with the water jet cutter. Then we vinyl cut the stickers and 3D printed the handle. This is a map of Bhutan that was made on the Zund. It's acrylic, and the little like partitions are made like with the puzzle piece, so you know where the provinces in Bhutan are. The Naruto figurine, it was made on the Stratasys, and of course a bunch of other 3D printed stuff.
To understand the fab network in Bhutan, we have this map where you can see where each of the lab is located. The numbers floating at the top signify that we have 1 super fab lab, 5 fab labs for about 790,000 people, which gives us a ratio of about 130,000 people per fab lab, which I guess for us is an impressive number. However, I'm aware that a lot of other countries have a larger number of fab labs. Not pictured here is Fab Lab Mandala, which is known as Fab Lab Bhutan, which is also located in Thimphu, because they're in a transitional phase right now and they're being handed off to another organization. However, we have a representative from each of the labs here in Bhutan. So yeah, they're all here. And as you can see, most of the labs are located mostly towards the center and the western side of the country. However, we have plans on eventually developing mobile fab labs so that we can promote the Fab Lab community in the more infrastructure-barren parts of Bhutan.
So earlier when we were trying out our slides, Fran told us that no one would be able to pronounce the full name of the Super Fab Lab. And I think Adrian tried. Do you want to try again? No? Okay, if anyone is up for the challenge, you guys can find us after the presentation and try it out. This is just a basic infographic of like how we've tried to structure the lab. We've tried to be very intentional in, as much as we love our machines and our projects, we're trying really hard to really build a community around the lab that can use it to its full potential. So in our first year of operations, since we've inaugurated in June, we've really reached out to the communities and offered like various modes of engagement. So we're offering internships, workshops, like shorter courses, as well as the space for people to come in and work on their independent projects. Sorry, we have another video.
The Jigme Namgyal Wangchuk Super Fab Lab is the third of its kind in the world, and upon the vision of His Majesty, has been bestowed as a platform for design and innovation. The lab sits within a unique position, aspiring to exist in the global space. Here, we encourage local citizens to learn, collaborate, and create solutions to address challenges through innovation, technology, and the spirit of collaboration.
Going beyond theoretical concepts, the lab provides hands-on experience with machines and equipment that leverages modern technology. At the lab, the community of fabbers can design and create custom products through quick iterations at significantly reduced cost and time. Some of the machines that enable this include the Stratasys J55, a powerful PolyJet 3D printer that produces smooth, accurate parts, prototypes, and tooling. It can produce thin walls and complex geometries using the widest range of materials available with any technology. For those getting started with digital fabrication, the Prusa 3D is an excellent machine for 3D printing of three-dimensional objects from a CAD model or a digital 3D model. Another technology available at the lab is the water jet cutter, which can cut a wide variety of materials using an extremely high pressure of water. There are many other such machines at the lab, spread across the laser lab, metalworks hall, electronics room, and carpentry room.
Maximize its impact, the lab has prioritized capacity building and the creation of a vibrant, innovative community centered around its space. The lab intends to build technical capacity and engage with stakeholders through programs and initiatives, all designed collaboratively with local and international institutions to generate national impact. At the lab, we encourage community members to solve problems and design innovative solutions that align with the requirements of the future generation through knowledge exchange and experimentation, both locally and globally.
So this is our super lab. Hopefully, if you visit us to Bhutan next year, you'll be working in this lab with all the cool machines that we have. So we look forward to having you. And yeah, Bhutan basically consumes technology, meaning there's not many innovation happening in the technology space. And that's why Fab Labs were started. That's one of the objectives of the Fab Lab, is to inculcate digital fabrication technologies at grassroots level and community, even to communities or to businesses as well. So we work closely with the Center for Bits and Atoms, and we're doing around 8 projects with them, which includes drones, SRMs for electric vehicles, or switch reluctance motors. And then we're working on pet bottle through 3D printing filament, which Zina presented last time. And we are also, as Namgyal mentioned, we have programs whereby we work closely with communities, with schools, with teachers around the country, so that they can inculcate the values as well. Then we have space for collaboration. So we have a bunch of startups who are working with us inside the lab, who are working on various other projects. So other than that, we also have a research center which uses the Superfab Lab very closely. And the research center is mostly focused on Industrial Revolution 4.0 technologies like AI, blockchain, IoT, and robotics. So we also use the Superfab Lab for those projects. So over to Namgyal.
We just have a bunch of pictures to show you. I think the first program that we ran at the Superfab Lab this year was we invited 5 Fab Academy graduates from Wheaton College in Massachusetts to come in and run a makers program. So they taught a total of 30 teachers how to, it was essentially like Fab Academy, but very, very condensed into 3 weeks. And then later we invited those teachers to bring in their students to actually like come work on different machines and different projects. So these are all pictures from the SFL Makers program this year.
Yeah, another fun fact of Bhutan, actually, I'm sorry for putting this up on the screen. First of all, yeah, when you're in Bhutan, you will come across this weird object being put up on the walls of the traditional buildings that we have, and some of us we also use this as a with our keychain, sorry, and we can see also hanging from the rooftops. So some with the hair, some without hair. And what's so special about this? There are a lot of questions asking people coming from outside. It's essentially rooting deep down in our culture that this particular object it's symbolize symbol of good fortune. It also we believe that it chases away your spirits, and but we are not sure how far it has brought blessings in your lives, but at least yeah, we believe in that. And if you are interested to get blessings from this object, there is a temple called a fertility temple. It's probably 1 hour drive from Thimphu's capital city, and this temple has a lot of these stuffs waiting for you to get blessed. And yeah, the next one, actually, we have tried this in our lab using our facility there. So something that is just a symbol lying there, we try to mold it, turn it into the use cases in our lives. And we have tried this, to use it as a wax candle as well as soap. The shapes are weird though, I'm sorry, yeah. And so it's for, as I said, it's for the wax candle as well as the soap. It's not for other purposes. Yeah.
So with that, we're really, really excited to host Fab 18 next year. So we have a bunch of slides prepared to just give a little bit of information. I think we haven't finalized any of the details as of yet, but we will be launching it very soon. So I think just in general, we're really looking forward to having the entire Fab community in Bhutan addressing all of those issues that we mentioned earlier. Like we said, the Fab Labs in Bhutan are very, very widely distributed. So each of those Fab Labs they come from different regions that have their own challenges. So we're really excited to be able to sort of do challenges like this year, but like split it across different regions before like all coming back to the Super Fab Lab at the end. So yeah, I think we're really excited to host the Fab community in Bhutan.
One of the facts that I guess put Bhutan on the map was the fact that we were the first country to be carbon negative, which means we consume more carbon than we produce. This is largely due to the fact that in our constitution, 72% of our country's forests must always be covered with trees, so we will never be able to cut that away. And then regarding getting to Bhutan, the map shows a few of the countries that you can get into and out of Bhutan. I think for most people, Kathmandu in Nepal, New Delhi in India, and Bangkok in Thailand will be the most common used routes. However, I think Drucker is also focused on expanding to Japan, East Timor, etc. Another special thing that could be done is if a lot of the Fab Lab community members decide to gather together in a single place, then maybe a plane can be chartered from that location all the way to Bhutan.
So moving on to the most challenging part of hosting Fab Lab in Bhutan, Fab 18 in Bhutan next year is getting the visas, obviously. So this is very, very expensive, and we don't expect anyone to be able to pay this. I think our team is working with the government to make sure that the Sustainable Development Fund is completely waived off for participants. And if that's not possible, we're also exploring, I think we've had conversations with sponsors where we're trying to explore us paying the SDF so that none of the participants would have to. I think it's easier for Indians to come into the country. The price is like exponentially drops. So I think we'll have more information on the visa and the process and how it'll all work closer to the date when we launch the actual event.
So yeah, that's it from our side. Please scan the QR. We have a small survey form that's going around on Google Sheets, and we wanted to host the event better and know what you think of how we should organize it. We are very open to suggestions, comments, or any queries also. So we're also looking for partners and sponsors who would like to make this festival bigger, better, and stronger for everyone actually. So that's it from our side. We'll be around for till Saturday, so please feel free to connect with any of us. And we also have 10 of us, so we're 15 in total from Bhutan. We have the Super Lab team here, but you'll also see 10 more Bhutanese who have recently completed their Fab Academy. So yeah, I think you have a question, sir. Thank you for reminding us on that. So yeah, I think we'll be targeting end of July next year. End of July next year, yes. Sorry? It's for the Fab Fest, yeah, end of July next year. Yes. No, not in October, because we thought it'll be a good summer break for everyone also. Any other questions? So, oh, we forgot to mention that Bhutan has free education and free healthcare for all the citizens in the country. And if you come in as a foreigner, you'll also be getting free education and free healthcare. So for that, we have something known as the SDF, Sustainable Development Fund, which tourists who come into Bhutan need to pay this for every day. And as Namgyal mentioned, we're trying to get a waiver from the government. It hasn't been approved yet, but hopefully it will be in a few months to come. And other than that, we're also looking for sponsors, like if anyone is interested, that the sponsors might be providing the STF.
No, do you mean to say that, now any tourist coming into Bhutan has to give $200 per day to the government?
Yes, they have to. If you come in as a tourist.
Quite expensive.
Yep.
So it's a disincentive for tourism.
I didn't get you.
It is a disincentive for tourism.
Well, we have a policy known as high value, low impact tourism module. So that way, if you look in India, you have a lot of people coming in and destroying the natural environment, destroying the culture and tradition there, right? So just to preserve that, one of the reasons is for that. Any further questions? None, I guess. All right, then. Thank you for your time. Hopefully, we'll get to see you in Bhutan.
Thank you, everybody. Now we continue with our agenda of the day. Well, it's basically working groups. So if you want to join any of the working groups, they start in half an hour. And then you can meet us back here at 7 p.m. for the research paper highlights with Peter Troxter and some of the researchers here and some online. So come and join us at 7 here at Ricefield, followed by I think it's our third party this night here also at the Ricefield. So see you soon.